Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone in the big wide world. There we go. It's me, Stephen Drew, from the Architecture Social, joined by the fantastic Jason Boyle. So, Jason, we're now no longer audio only. You have my terrible beard here, but
we're on video.
We're on video. We're live. This is quite a bit of a fun, novel thing for us because we do a lot on Clubhouse. That's how we actually met. That's how we do a lot of stuff together. So, Jason, we have it's a really interesting, exciting time at the moment. And more importantly as well, what better time to talk about now that we're in the rebate election phase to talk about what it means to be a professional in the industry as an architect, and also with as well the professional bodies. And so what a fantastic conversation today that we can have together about what does it really mean to be a professional. So I have my own thoughts on that, and I know you do as well. But before that, can you tell everyone who you are? And I'll bring the screen up a little bit as well. So Jason, we'll zoom back in. Do you want to tell everyone who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, thank you, Stephen, for doing this as well. I really appreciated it. Comes at a perfect time because I'm actively campaigning for running for RIBA Council. Again, I'm Jason Boyle. I've been architect for 21 years, and 13 of those years have been in the nuclear industry. And I'm a fellow of the RIBA as well, back in 2018. So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit about who I am.
Amazing. So we actually did a podcast before, and people can definitely check that out. But that was last year, and we didn't know each other as much since then. And we've kind of gone on a weird and wonderful journey. So while you are an architect, and while you have done, and I've learned a lot from you in terms of mentorship and all these kind of things, and that kind of, to me, we'll touch upon how I think important that is to being professional. However, we have done one or two things on Clubhouse as well. So you have set up a Clubhouse, which is a little bit more active than me because I've been busy at the moment. But we have done the Architecture Social Clubhouse, and you have your own one. Can we just touch upon that briefly before we go into it?
Sure. Yeah. So I think it was back in late February. I set up the Global Architect Alliance, which exists on Clubhouse. It's audio based. But we've got members from 32 different countries. We've got 2,700 people there, and we've actually done 17 debates without a break, Stephen, without a break. So
wow. Yeah, it's impressive. I love it as well. I've been in one or two of the rooms. It's been fantastic. And what's interesting about Clubhouse is that you have all different people from different parts of the architectural profession. And because it's around the world, you have different professional bodies as well. And so I imagine everyone has a different answer to this question. So this is an interactive show. For anyone in the audience, if you want to ask me or Jason a question, you can ask it here. If there's swearing, I might not be able to bring it up on the screen, but anything other than that, we are an open book. So we can ask it. So the question, I'll bring it up on the screen. Let me just type it in here. So the question that we posed, what does it mean to be a professional? So let's whack that up here now, because we're going to talk about that for a bit. So why don't we start off with your thoughts on why you wanted to go into this question, Jason, and then we can freestyle around it.
Yeah, I think it's something that, obviously you're going through your training to become a professional, and there's certain attributes that I think you need to have in order to be professional, and we can talk about all of them. But I think it just comes at a time when I think a lot of people are coming out of university and they might have got their qualifications and they're moving into the work environment, and they may be asking them sort of questions. Well, what does that really mean? How would you describe what it's like to be in a professional? And I think there's certain attributes that you need to have, I'll give you the first one. Continuing professional development, which is all around competency. So once you become this professional, and we can talk about all them things, you have a duty really to keep your knowledge and grow your knowledge in your profession. So, so I'd say a professional is someone who's always learning, actually records that evidence as well, and belongs to a professional sort of body or institute. That's just one aspect. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think that, because I'm not a qualified architect, I'm a Part 2 architectural assistant. And in one sense, you never stop learning. And we talked about it so much as well, for even like on Clubhouse, okay? The mechanics of running a conversation and including everyone at first seems so, it is difficult, and it's something that's fun but also challenging, and I'm always learning. And I think that's what I really loved about those conversations. So sometimes I challenge the ideas that I think are cement in my head, and that's what was really interesting. But you're right, I do think that it's interesting for me actually, Jason, because I don't have like architectural CPDs so much anymore, but they're a really important part of the practice where I work, Aqua Lowry. And so today, I mean, I'm working at home, but I can see in the office, it's like, right, we must learn and we must check up. And we've got a really exciting one, because for like fire at the moment, I mean, it's really, really important, and there's constant rules evolving around that. But I do think, though, for anyone that is a student as well, that the concept of what you're talking about being a professional, I really agree about sharpening your tools is something that you can do, even if it's not quote unquote a CPD. So Sana's a great one, and we work both with her, and she does some cool stuff, and she's got like an event popping up where you can learn how to organize your staff, and you can learn how to be more efficient. And I think like that's a really good example of like actually doing something, learning professional skills, which is going to make you more organized, have a higher output. So there's the two sides, as you said. There's like the official way of going about it, but the always learning aspect of being a professional as well. The other bit that I'd love your thoughts on, and because you do mentoring, and I respect that a lot, and I try to do mentoring on the Architecture Social, and it's almost, you can get so much thrill from it, and there's so much I learned from it, but also that is a requirement as well. And actually, that requires a lot of being a professional, and you have to, when you're mentoring someone, you have to deal with them in a professional capacity, which is supportive and constructive to help them in their career. So what I would love to ask you a quick question on is like, is it two different versions of being a professional when in your job as an architect and being a mentor, Jason? Or is there like similar styles and characteristics of being a professional throughout, which is really helpful?
Yeah, I think it's everyone is different, and everyone comes from different backgrounds and learning experiences. I think the first thing you would do in that case is do a lot of listening. So I think that is really critical, being empathetic, and a lot of it is to do with emotional intelligence, because that is something that I don't think we're really kind of taught, at university, but it's a sort of general skill that you build up throughout life. But I always say on the first couple of sessions, I'm going to do a hell of a lot of listening.
Right.
It really is critical. And then once they open up and you can kind of understand where they're coming from, then you can kind of put a strategy in place to do that. So it is different from work. I think you should do a lot more listening at work with people. But I think there's different sort of pressures at work. You've got a task to do, and I don't see that's the case with mentoring. It's much more of an inclusive process.
There's so many facets to the word being a professional as well, though, because one, I was reading your thoughts on this beforehand. So you're right. So I respect the values you've got there. And you're right, everything's different between your different roles, your different capabilities. Where it gets interesting with the word professional, though, is like the professional title, right? Or the protected title. So if I said right now I'm an architect on LinkedIn Live, that would probably be a bad idea because the ARB would come down on me quite rightly, but because you can't say that. And so I'll tell you a brief, quick story. So when I did the BBC radio live conversation with Lionheart, I got all sweaty before. Yeah, I got all bothered before. And at one point during the conversation, he was like, as an architect, and I was having a mini sweat on because I was like, right, I've got to handle this because what he was asking about how I feel again about being a professional, but he said as an architect, and so I had to sneak it in there that I was an architectural assistant because I didn't want ARB to see on the BBC radio that I was saying I was an architect. So on one hand, I think that this is kind of important and needed, but then on the other hand, you have architectural assistants who are equally professional, but they can't legally say that they are an architect. So what's your kind of thoughts? Because you have been in the industry much more than me, and while you're running for the REBA, we both agree it's really important. But how do you feel about the architecture title being protected and what that means in terms of being a professional?
Yeah, I think for many of those people who are qualified as an architect, it's something that it is really a big achievement in your sort of life, and maybe that's one reason why people get a little bit emotional about it. And there's obviously the legal side, but it's just about using the right terminology for me. So if you are an architectural assistant, there's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely fine. If you're a registered architect with ARB, that's fine. If you're a chartered architect, then say you are. So I think it comes down to one of the attributes of being professional, which is honesty and integrity. So like when you were on the radio and you were sort of correcting Lionheart about, well, I'm actually an architectural assistant, that shows you're actually professional.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, so totally. But it was, at the time, it was really stressful though, to get it in the conversation live. But I pulled it off in the end, I think.
So no, you did, and I think that shows your honesty and your integrity as a person, your character, which I think is something that's absolutely critical to being a professional. Just being honest about what you are is great, and you get a lot of respect for that.
I appreciate that. Well, it's an exciting time, right? I think that there's so much going on. And look, I can see your passion, and you're right that we're all professionals in architecture. We should be proud. But at the same time, I agree. If someone's done all the hard work and done the Part 3 exam, because I haven't done the Part 3 exam, but if you have done, that should be celebrated and rewarded. So you are running right now for the REBA Council. I can't vote for you, but if I could, I am happy to say publicly that I would vote for you. However, I'm sure while you're running right now, it's an exciting time in the profession and in the architectural profession. And I know that this theme of being a professional is important to you. So tell me, why are you running for this for the REBA Council?
Yeah, I think it all stemmed really from writing those articles I did. I think it was probably during lockdown about the broke architect. So I got a lot of response from that, and my LinkedIn profile really started to grow with people and commenting about it. And it was a poll. It was based on polls that I conducted, asking people about. The first one was maybe about salary at the different sort of levels of Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. And then the other one was kind of more about the sort of working culture around architecture. So I could see that the issues within the profession. And once I wrote an article from what happened with the polls and investigated into the history of some of the practices that had gone out of business. I could see there's a real need to bring that sort of business and professionalism into practice. Yes, there's fantastic practices out there that are profitable. I'm not saying that they're not, but I think we touched on CPD, continuing professional development. I don't think there's enough around that business side of architecture. And I really, in my statement that I've made to to the RIBA, I've highlighted the fact that I really do think we need to look at the business skills and upskill people. And I think a lot of the architects' roles have been taken away from us by other professionals as well. There's many things that we used to do, and so we can't earn as much fee as well. So, you know, I don't want to go into every single aspect of what's been taken away from us. Most of the architectural community are aware of that. But I really want to emphasize that sort of business and consultancy aspect of being an architect.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think you're right. I think that's a great stance to do. So I think, do we have as well online, did Reba in the end publish the written statements, Jason? Did they publish them online?
Yes, they're all online. Yeah,
they are. Okay.
So you can read everyone's. I think there's 11 people running, so you can publish everyone's statement. You can see everyone's statement and read and see which one that you align to. But
yeah,
yeah,
that's good. That's good. So, well, amazing. Look, let's have a little clap for that, because I agree. We need people who are passionate about like pushing the business agenda as well as the professional body. So definitely, I think anyone listening should check out what Jason said. So I managed to avoid the election, the campaigning process, didn't I, Jason? So I kind of by chance snuck in through the door, but I am excited to be there, and I agree with a lot of the points you say. So look, it's hope to see what happens, but I think rather than, as you said though, it's important that people can feel like they vote, and that's part of being a professional, isn't it? That everyone's say matters, and actually people should vote. And I say that from a place where in the past I remember once or twice I didn't vote in terms of particular, when I was a student in the national elections, because I was like, oh, whatever, between Labour and Conservative, it's all a farce, and you can't think like that, because otherwise then the voices are not going to be heard. And like, I think that it's a really constructive time right now, that if we want to change stuff within Reba, then let's actually do it. There's some good stuff that's there, and let's change what doesn't work. That's being a professional, in my opinion, fixing the problems. And I know that I believe you when you say you're quite happy to roll the sleeves up and get stuck in. But that's the attitude you need right now, isn't it? To kind of push this agenda of us being, architects, as you're saying, kind of reclaiming their role as a professional and reclaiming that remit. It's only going to happen if we all start talking about it and all start pushing ahead. I mean, that's why I think this year, Jason, isn't it, where like the FAF, the Future Architects Front, they talked about how they felt as a part two, being a professional, that they were not happy with certain things, and that included salary. But because of that conversation, there was a very mature response. And now hopefully we will get to the point where that will change, the industry will change, and we will adapt and it will be a more professional environment in 2021, because there's always a lot of work to do, but we have to start somewhere, right? Because it doesn't work, does it? Going, oh, whatever, and then leaving. It's like, people actually have to get involved. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I've put myself forward for this position, and I'll be very honest with you. I've had a lot of people send me very negative comments, and these are our IBA members. And they tell me the problems with the profession, and I go back to them and say, yeah, but you're still an RIBA member. Why? Tell me why you're an RIBA member. It must mean something to you, or you wouldn't keep paying the fees, or your company wouldn't keep paying the fees for you. So I think I've got a good grasp on what the issues facing the RIBA, and I'm listening to people, because this is going on till the end of the month. So people I'm quite open to listen. I can't promise to solve every single problem, but I can communicate the issues to people within RIBA, and that's why I want to sort of stand. And the voting actually only takes you because I thought it as well. It takes you 10 seconds if you depends on if you want to read everyone's, but the actual act of pressing the voting button and logging in is very quick.
So it's pretty quick. You can't vote for yourself, though, can you? I don't think so.
Well,
can you?
Well, no, I didn't. But
no, you didn't. Exactly. You're a professional. Yeah.
Wrong.
No, I was just curious. So it's dead easy. So we should all do it. But that's really interesting. So already, yeah, the term being professional, because it's such a wide and loose definition. You know, I think that it's really interesting, all the facets. So we've covered the aspect of we have the professional body, we have REBA, or what it means to get involved and change things. But I do agree with the attributes that you talked about before, because to me, being a professional, especially like in recruitment, before, because recruitment is perceived as a super unprofessional business. Okay, remember there was that post on LinkedIn before where the topic of recruitment came, and I have again. I mean, we talk about a can of worms with Reba, but on one hand, I've been the recruitment consultant, and it's a very difficult job in some shape or form, and it's so easy to come across as unprofessional. Yet, hopefully, by doing little bits and rather than thinking, oh gosh, that feeling of when I go to a Christmas party or whatever, or so now I go to like me and you, I sit down and I meet your fiance before I go, oh, I'm a recruitment consultant, and she'd be like, oh yeah, I know where this is going. Well, it's taken me a lot of time to get past that. And one of the ways I try to do is by being professional or by being honest and being open. And it was last year when I was on furlough. I mean, my values in recruitment was always, okay, I got to look after the person's agenda. You can't push people into jobs. They've got to want to do it. So you've got to find the right fit. But it was actually helping out students. And it took a lot of time to build up, hopefully, my reputation, hopefully, as being professional. I mean, technically, the bells and the horns, Jason, is questionable, but I like to have a giggle. Yeah, I like to have a giggle, but where I'm going with this is that I think being professional or being honest or it's an ongoing thing. It's a daily thing. And we all make mistakes, and especially being on the live streams like us right now, it's so easy to say one thing and it's so easy for it to be misinterpreted. But my opinion of being a professional is that if you're honest and open and you try to help people and you admit mistakes, but you have good intentions there, then ultimately that is well received,
Yeah, and it's about consistency as well. Like Stephen, you'll know. So, it's about turning up on time. It's about planning ahead. It's, I've done, Global Architect Alliance. Every single week I've shown up. I've planned ahead. I've got people involved to speak, discuss the topics. It takes a hell of a lot of time to organize these things. And I think people know that, Thursday comes 7:00, I'll be there and I'll open a room. So it is about, being professional. It's about being consistent, and not sort of making excuses sometimes to not do something. We all have busy lives, but you've just got, sometimes you've got to plan ahead and sort of really push yourself to doing it.
I think you've got to go the extra mile. I agree. I think it really helps. But I tell you what, that's one thing I need to learn from you more, because right now my podcasts are going out late, Jason. I haven't done a Clubhouse this week. So when you're saying that, I was like, oh no, you're right. I need to do one.
I know, I could tell.
I know, but do you know what? You're right as well. Consistency is key. But I am going to hold my hand up and be honest and say I've just been a little bit too busy. But we will get the Clubhouse back. But to be honest, the GAA, I think, has what you need. So, the Architecture Social, we've had so many good Clubhouses and we've talked about certain topics, but you are killing it on that front. So I'm not here to take the top part. The GAA, in my opinion, is the best Clubhouse for architects per week. I agree. So we've got one or two things that Kirsty said So she said, lovely, spot on. Really appreciate that. And Kirsty's thoughts were talking about, so Kirsty thinks that there is a lack of education of what the REBA does for the profession, which is a shame, but I try to spread the message. Well, that's actually close to your mandate, isn't it, Jason, actually, about when you talk about the REBA standard. Do you want to, I'll bring Kirsty's question back up. Do you want to offer your thoughts on that, actually?
Yeah, I think there's it's, for me, it's a knowledge hub, and I think you've got to really understand that it is a knowledge hub. I mean, for me, during the last 12 months, I've been using our IBA Academy. There's a hell of a lot of free content on there, and you know, there's lectures that are live. There's continuing professional development that's recorded. You can watch at your own time. You know, I think they've really made a step change, but it's only been, for me, in the last 12 months personally, I can see this whole, so I'm like up to date now. I think I've done all of my CPD for the year already. You know, I just make a conscious effort every Friday afternoon. I'll log on, I'll do some CPD, and then, you know, that's kind of the end of my week. So I make it a habit, you know. You know, I think RIBA members, as you know, we're all, if you're an RIBA member, you owe it to get the word out there to other people. So, you know, if you do learn something that's fantastic, you know, tell people about it, share, do a podcast about it, you know, do a clubhouse about it and have a discussion. So there are people who are doing this sort of thing. I don't think we should fully expect the RIBA to do everything for us. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be really upfront because, you know, I'm excited to go into this role at REBA, but I kind of, especially in the past, I had mixed thoughts about it. When I was a student, it felt very difficult on my own. You know, my parents supported me and I was working part-time. So I didn't quite feel the same I feel about REBA now. I have a bit of a different opinion on it now. But I do think that there's definitely a lot of positive work that can be done. I'm interested in like where the industry can go at next year and the year after. And I think that's going to be really important to me. But what I would say, you touched upon a really good topic about there's only so much like these things can do. It relies on you, the person participating. And I really agree with that. So when you were talking about Clubhouse, about consistency, I agree with that. But that also, I think it's a bigger concept. And so like with all this stuff, so anyone should be, you can do your CPDs, but it's just like with the REBA or like, for instance, with the Architecture Social, there's so many resources there, Jason, but people have got to log on, they've got to go through it, and they've got to talk to people, and they've got to network. You're there, but if someone doesn't message you, then maybe a conversation doesn't happen, and it's the same thing. So I see all the successful people are the people that are doing things, you know, and it can be participating in things or it can be starting things. So you set up the Global Architects Alliance, but it's people that come to those conversations. That's what's really important. And I think that we've talked about it as well, but one of the things of being a professional is the more and more you do these things, the chances are that you meet people, okay? And when you meet, and that helps with networking. Now, it's not always going to go right. And so I'll do like an open confession because you know, like with me, I tell the truth on I hopefully tell the truth on everything. And like one embarrassing thing that happened to me actually this week is because, I mean, I've been so flat out doing all these bits and bobs that I was supposed to do a guest presentation on Saturday. And because on Friday was busy with work and everything, and I didn't put this one thing in my diary because this calendar invite came into the wrong, my wrong inbox. And I didn't look. It was all my fault, but I missed it. And I was really upset with myself because this was something I was passionate about. It was going to speak to lots of students and I missed it, Jason. And I was gutted with myself for a minute. And then I thought, right, what can I do? I'm going to be a professional about it. I'm not going to lie. And I just said, sorry, I've made a massive oversight. At the moment, I'm spreading myself too thin. I've missed this. This is my mistake. And what happened, luckily, on the back of that, is that the lady was really nice, and she said, look, I understand these things happen. Do you want to be involved in another one? And I said, oh my God, that would be great. And that was better than me going, oh, you should have done this, or because it wasn't her fault, it was my fault.
Yeah.
And I think that I had to, I had to own that and make a mistake. And so what I'm trying to learn right now is that the balance I have is that I've got to work, Jason, on getting the balance. And also because, I'm setting up my business and we talk about it, is getting that healthy balance. But in the process of that, we all make mistakes. I mean, how do you think about, I know I've got to set my calendar up and you're right, but what do you think about that? Do you kind of get where I'm coming from lately? Or it's difficult?
I think you handled it fantastically well. And my partner as well has taught me this, is if you make a mistake, just you can diffuse the situation instantly by just going, sorry, I messed up, I apologize. And then what can be the comeback? They can't be a comeback, really. So again, that is another aspect about being professional, is being completely open and honest with people. But I think you've got to be committed as well. So, if you say you're going to do something, then you've got to try and put them mechanisms in place to remind you, whether it's a post-it note stuck on your laptop or a calendar invite, and making sure you keep that diary, because my diary is so full of things. I've got 2 more things to go on straight after this. And, I've got to have that visibility and commit to things. So if I say no, it's genuinely because I can't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you're right. And like from that, because what I learned is that I've got to be careful about overcommitting to stuff, but more importantly, you're right, is that the busier I'm getting, you're right, it needs to go into the diary, and so I can't let that happen again. And so hopefully I learn from it and it doesn't happen again. If it happens again, you have full permission, Jason, to honk the horn at me, because that's being unprofessional. But you're right, I love that analogy of what you say to your partner of holding up your hand. So we've had a few things that have come in over the time. So Stefano agreed with us and said yes. So thank you, Stefano. Hopefully that was not yes at the bit where I was an idiot for missing the meeting, but it was hopefully another part. However, Ivor's offered a thought saying, yes, you heard about the REBA standards and the REBA offers for the first time during my part 3, which is a real problem in the British education. I agree that it's very difficult right now. Ivor's actually brought in another note here, so we're going to get you up on the screen here again, Ivor. So raising the fees will only work if everyone in the profession does it, otherwise undercutting will bring them down again. So, that's a massive conversation, probably one we can get into a little bit more another time. But in one sense, Jason, raising the fees in theory is the right way to do. And I think that that is harder than it sounds, isn't it? You can't just snap up overnight, as you alluded to, Ivor, about raising the fees.
Lowering fees is a race to the bottom. It really is. And, a professional should be paid a professional wage, or income. That's just a given. But it doesn't happen, does it? There are cases where it just doesn't happen. So I agree with the comments.
Yeah. Well, Ivor, I think you raise a valid point. It's just, as you said, that's a tricky one to navigate. Dr. Liz mentions that the REBA wasn't actually set up in 1834 to support members. It was set up to promote architecture.
Thank
you, Dr. Liz. I didn't know that. There we go. Kirsty mentions that she thinks another issue is architects are learning to value themselves as professionals. Yeah, I can see that. Do you find that, Jason, that sometimes architects do not value their worth as well?
This is a question I think that has come up many times on LinkedIn, about not valuing themselves, and the reasons why are very complex as well. But it is a valuable profession. I only know in my own design in my own buildings, which are nuclear facilities. Often the professionals in the team, or all professionals, look to the architect to make them decisions about, from that concept and pulling it together and coordinating the design and creating what that building's going to function like. It comes down to the architect more than any other professional, and that's what we're trained to do. So there's a huge value in architecture. It's just not often understood by other people, and it's our duty to do that. It's our duty to do that. And like back to Dr. Liz, yes, I agree. It is about the advancement of architecture, but the profession is also looking after our professional development and as architects, so we can actually do great architecture. So,
yeah. I think so. I think you're right. And hey, we've got things have come in sheer fast at the moment. We're getting so many comments, I can't even keep up with them, Jason. But I think what I would say, just jumping upon your point as well. So that's what I wanted to talk about briefly. Every architect here, the skills that we have as architects are amazing. So I met with an architect that we also had at Clubhouse, so he's going to be on a podcast. His name's Matthew, and he works in a BIM technology company in Sweden. And so basically, he was saying the same thing, that like the skills that we learn as architects are amazing. So, or even like the fact that on the architecturesocial.com, I built the website, and the way I look at it is the way I was taught to design. I don't necessarily do the buildings like you do right now, Jason, but anyone that's here, whether you're a part one or an architect, the skill set we have is phenomenal. I mean, what other industries, right, do you learn to communicate a project, sell a project, deal with clients, deal with contractors, basic mathematics, advanced mathematics? You've got to issue drawings, you've got to organize drawings, you've got to go on site, you've got to see people, you've got the real world, you've got to understand how a building stands up. And then you're trained to be a designer. You're trained to make things look good, and you have a sense of spatial awareness. The skill sets that you have is fantastic. And I often hear that architects are not fantastic business and managers, but I would argue they're not that bad, because the amount of skills that you've got is so wide. So I think that as a profession, everyone's really talented. And I think whether you're working in architecture or not, still, if you studied architecture, it's super valuable experience,
Oh, it is. And sometimes, it's identifying where your lack of skill lies. So you might be really good at a certain aspect of architecture, and it's about being, again, open and honest about where you need to upskill. And I think it's something that I've mentioned in my statement to the RIA, is we've got to upskill members. But it comes down to you identifying where your weaknesses are. So if you are honest with yourself and you need to upskill in certain areas, then that's what it's all about. And it comes into, it's really funny actually, because where I work, we have this thing called nuclear professional, and so these similar things come up within the nuclear industry. And it's essentially the same things, honesty, integrity, continuing professional development. It's a very similar thing.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So, look, we've got so much coming in. Dr. Liz says, come on, Steve, don't you spend 7 years learning how to draw a perfect circle? I don't know many architects that could do a perfect circle. Dr. Liz. Yeah, it's very hard. I think I'd have to say, after 5 years, I probably failed at that. But hopefully, because I built the Architecture Social, you'll let me off, Dr. Liz. We can see that. Another question, is the REBA the right body to impose and recommend a new fee structure? Good question. Well, hopefully this year will be really interesting, because we have, for instance, Simon Alford, who's running AHMM. So I think it's amazing to have a REBA president. As much as I think good old Alan's done a good job, not having to go out there, so fair dues. However, I think that Simon, as a business leader will be really interesting, because we've got talking about a large London commercial practice, and I think it's really important to have the micro architecture practices as well as the larger architecture practices as well.
I think that there is just come out recently, a digital fee calculator that's come out. So I'd be interested to know anyone who has tested that to see what they think of it. Yeah.
Well, look, there's so much stuff coming here, and you're right, Jason. I've just seen some of the questions which have come in the chat. I got really distracted by one or two of them on Twitch. JS Rock, very personal question you asked. I do not want to put it live on the air. However, you can drop me a message on LinkedIn, and I am more than happy to give you my thoughts on that, because, you know, I think it's a very sensitive topic. But look, there's been so much here, okay? And we're coming up to that sweet 45-minute mark. So for me, being a professional, I agree. I think it's like a daily attitude thing. It's admitting mistakes. It's hopefully helping people out. I do think that being generous with your time and energy, and I think in the long run, you reap more rewards. And I think that being known as someone that's helpful and someone that is knowledgeable about their subject and expertise, to me, that's what I really value in a professional. And so the last thing that my dad always said is that basically, like, his definition of being a professional is, and this is his definition, is like having a laugh with your clients, but you've got to deliver the job. Because then they always just say, look, they can have a laugh with their best mates, but what you need to do is be the professional go-to guy and have an enjoyable working relationship. So that's my father's definition. My definition is helping people out and, you know, admitting to mistakes as you go. Jason, what's your definition on what it means to be a professional?
Yeah, I agree with that. You've probably done a great summary there, but I also think it is about getting, you know, if you're going to do something quarter fee, you know, you've got to deliver that project or that task on time. And, you know, and if you're coming up to you know, I don't know, 50% through and it's looking like it's not going to happen, you've got to hold your hands up, apologize and say, look, I need an extension, or we need to find more resources to actually complete this task. So it's just about kind of not getting to the end and then saying, oh, sorry, I can't do this. You know, you need to be, you know, when you've got to do something and where you are on that timeline. So it all comes back to honesty and integrity, and holding it, you know, and that's what I think runs through all of these attributes of being a professional.
Amazing. Well, I agree. So I've got some new noises here. Let's see what I've got. Oh my gosh, I've got a new soundboard which you'd love. So anyone in the crowd, look, I've got a cartoon board now, look. So they weren't quite the ones that fit, but we'll have a round of applause for having you here, Jason. It is difficult to talk about these topics. It's very close to home for all of us, and no one is wrong here. It's all about our perspectives, and equally everyone's has a valuable opinion. However, there's one link that I wanted to get up, Jason, and that's the REBA link on where people can vote, because that's going to be probably really important. So is that when they log into REBA that they find it, or is it on the CS Vote website?
It's a CS Vote website, but you will get a link as an RIBA member, and literally you've just got to click it and put your code in, and then you can select. Right.
Good. Okay. So everyone do that. Yeah. Wherever you're here, out there, look, come on. I want you to go in there and click the link. Vote for who you want. The important point is that you vote. If you're a REBA affiliate, then don't worry. In September when I join, I'll have my say, and I think that everyone should vote. But until then, if you are a REBA architect, please do vote for the council. Last one or two thoughts before we go. So JS Rock says he doesn't mind if we put it live, and appreciate the respect. I love the emojis that you've got. Shatish says that during the recession of the 90s, did a lot of harm for the construction sector. To retain and win work, cutting fees has contributed to where we are today. Perhaps you are right. and fees seem to stagnate between 2 to 5% depending on project size and value. That sounds about right to me as well. Well, we will work and keep having the conversation on the fees. But until next time, everyone should log on and vote, and they can message Jason here. You are on the Architecture Social, and you do have a YouTube channel. This video is on YouTube. This video is on LinkedIn, and people can message you on LinkedIn. Any questions, they can find you, can't they? Jason Boyle. That's right.
I'm on Twitter as well. I'm on Twitter as well. Yeah.
Oh, you're a more patient man than me. Twitter's quite a difficult one.
Yeah, it is. It is difficult. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Message Jason on Instagram, where you are on there as well, or LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Jason. You are an absolute legend, and I wish you all the best with your campaign. And I will probably. Oh yeah, I'm free tomorrow evening, so I will see you on the GAA. Amazing.
Oh, fantastic. And we're talking about urban design. So yeah.
I like urban design. I was a toss-up between whether I did urban design as an extra module, but I went mainstream architecture. Damn, if I only did urban design. But maybe we wouldn't be here today. Thank you so much, Jason. Stay on the line while I close the broadcast. I have got the last thank you so much. And Noor says, all the support to Jason. And says, it's been a while. I am alive. I am here as well. Waving the face mask. But I'm going to close the live stream now. And we will see you soon. Bye-bye.